Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Harrell. Welcome to the City Council meeting for Thursday, October the 20th at 6 p.m. At this time, please stand for the invocation. Who's giving it? Ms. Rita will be giving the invocation.
Let's pray. Dear wise and loving Lord, thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for our wonderful and growing community. Lord, bless this community and those in positions of leadership in our city. I pray for our mayor, our city council, city clerk, city attorney, and others who serve the city in various positions. Guide the city council as they work through tonight's agenda. Give them wisdom to make decisions affecting our city and its residents. May all who come before this council be treated with dignity and respect. Amen.
Face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. At this time, I will ask Ms. Skelton to do roll call.
Ms. Cruth? Present. Mr. Harris? Here. Mr. Tripp? Here. Mr. Olson? Here. Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Gray? Here. Mr. Keller? Here. Mayor Harris?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Myself, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Council, you have before you the minutes from the September 15th, 2022 meeting. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time, Ms. Johnson, will you give us the financial report?
Finance reports for the City of Russellville. General fund revenues for September were $1,313,575, which was 4.1% above budget. Tax receipts were $1,016,985. Franchise fees and permits were $56,833. Tax revenue comparison, when you look at city and county sales tax receipts over the prior year, the city is running 8.5% ahead of prior year, and county is 8.1%. For the analysis to budget, the actual received year-to-date on city was $4,179,332 compared to a budget of $4,050,770. So city is above budget by 3.2%. At the county sales tax, we've received $4,825,810 compared to a budget of $4,686,207. County is above budget by 2.9%. General fund expenditures for September were $1,081,825. Personnel-related expenditures were $828,206. Utilities and other were $222,622, which is 4.9% below budget. There's $1,738,955 more received than expended. September revenues for the street funds were $940,183. New sales tax was $641,623. State turnback and ad valorem tax was $146,417. Half-cent road sales tax was $71,804. Interest was $79,428. Insurance and utility reimbursement of $334. Fuel rebate of $377. Street cutting permits of $200. Street operating revenue is sitting at 2.2% above year-to-date projections. Street fund expenditures for September operations were $174,261. That was comprised of personnel-related expenses of $112,604, utilities and other expense of $61,653. In street capital, we spent $5,356 for a street sweep broom attachment. In the half-cent sales tax, we spent $640 for schoolhouse trail row easements. And for sales tax, we spent $487,007 for overlay sidewalk maintenance on Phase 2 and drainage maintenance. September revenues for the Economic Development Funds was $103,933. New sales tax was $91,660, and interest of $12,273. September expenditures were $90,294 for the second deposit on the splash pad for City Park. The balance of the various economic development funds as of September 30th, 2020. The 2003 fund was $1,564,532.50. The 2007 fund was $1,032,306.74. The 2014 fund was $542,649.94, and the 2021 fund was $1,577,053.93. That's a total of $4,716,543.11. September revenues for capital assets was $260,273. There was fund transfers of a total of $258,935 from the general fund carryover balance to purchase 4 vehicles for RPD, 1 vehicle for RFD, and 2 network printers. Interest was $1,338. September expenditures were $64,777 for network infrastructure, 2 network printers, replace HVAC of the train depot, airport hangar, and compressor replacement for Hughes Center. When you look at the 2021 1-cent sales tax receipts spent and balance, the street, we received $12,030,240. We spent $2,741,972, so there's a balance of $9,288,266. RFD RPD capital is $1,718,262. We spent $292,559. So there's a balance of $1,425,703. For parks, we received $2,345,093. We spent $330,046 with a balance of $2,015,015. For economic development capital, we've received $1,721,524, spent $144,471, and have a balance of $1,577.54. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Moving on to the mayor's report, item number 1 is consideration of the cemetery nomination, Walter Hudson, to fill a vacancy. We have a motion from the council on that nomination.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second from Mr. Harris. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, this week is been proclaimed as Russellville Hearts Cyclist Week, and I'd like to, for those cyclists who made their way here this evening, to please stand to be recognized. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. I know you guys did a bike ride tonight, and you ended up at City Hall today for this proclamation. You know, a few weeks ago, we had an individual cyclist in town who was purposely run over by a motorist, road rage, if you will. And fortunately, the cyclist was not injured, but his bike was destroyed. And the thing that bothered me about that is that we want to exude a cycle-friendly community. So we could have just identified it as a one-off issue and moved on. But in getting with several individuals in the community, we decided we would take this as use this opportunity to tell people that we do care about cyclists in our community. We do understand that cycling is important to the quality of life in our community, and it's important for not only our citizens, but those who visit our city. And so with that, I want to read a proclamation. Whereas the city of Russellville, Arkansas promotes bicycling as an alternative form of transportation and recreation, and whereas bicycling improves the health and well-being of our citizens and reduces pollution, And whereas creating a bicycle-friendly city improves quality of life and fosters community spirit, and whereas bicycling positively impacts our recreation and tourism industry by making our city attractive to residents and visitors who enjoy outdoor activities and healthy lifestyles. And whereas the education of our entire community on the safe operation of bicycles and motor vehicles who share the road is critical to ensure the safety of all our citizens. Now therefore I, Richard Harris, Mayor of Russellville, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim the week of October the 16th through 22nd, 2022 as Russellville Heart Cyclist Week, and urge the residents of our community to share the road with cyclists with courtesy and care this week and throughout the year. Thank you very much. And before we move on, I just again want to thank you for being Cyclist Beer. And you know, if you've looked on Facebook and stuff this week, there's been a lot of activities. They've created a new trail over in Hickey Park for young people and beginning cyclists for mountain biking. I know there's a lot of activity going on in the Mothers Confederate Park on the south side of town to create some training facilities for off-road bicyclists. Of course, we all know about Mount Depot and the quality of the trails there, but we also have trails not only throughout our city, but north of our city, and a lot of that is due to the efforts of the cycling community who spend their own time, their own dollars to get out there and make sure that there's trails for people to enjoy and utilize. And believe me, it's going to reap benefits for our community for years to come. So thank you very much. All right, moving on. Departmental report. Mr. Thomas.
I thought all these people come to listen to my report, but evidently not.
And for that cyclist, don't feel like you have to stay. You feel free to get up and leave at any point in time.
All right, there we go. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me be here tonight. The mayor gives us 7 minutes. I'm not sure what I can do in 7 minutes with all the stuff that we've done this year. The Parks Department has been really busy. This year we've kind of concentrated on revamping our parks, cleaning up our parks, adding stuff to our parks, and just fixing up kind of what we've got right now amongst all of our other projects. So I'm going to go through these quickly. Feel free to stop me and ask a question, or feel free to come by tomorrow and ask me questions, because I just want to hit some big highlights here before my time's up. This year we added or replaced water fountains in 7 different parks. We replaced park signs in 5 different parks. I'll get to a slide that shows the park sign here in just a minute. We resurfaced 3 playgrounds with all new fall zone protection. And we hosted over 16 tournaments, which brought about 357 teams to our community. And that list just goes on and on of the little stuff we did. Now I want to get to the bigger highlights that we did this year. Oh, there we go. James School Park. This has been a park in the making for the last year and a half. As you can see, we completely redid the bathrooms, redid the pavilion. Basically, the only thing left over there that's not new are the 2 bridges in the playground unit. The basketball court has completely been redone. As you can go over and look at the basketball court right now, you can't really see what it says, or you can't really visual it, but that is a sky shot there of what it says on the basketball court. That is the actual court itself right now, sitting over in James Park. And then the bottom picture there is the Lattimore House coming into James Park. So James Park is just continuing to grow over there. Once that Lattimore House is put in there, the new schoolhouse trail is coming through there. That park will be totally new, totally unique to our town. Just right over there, a little park in the neighborhood. Make sure I didn't miss anything about James Park, but Lattimore House is coming. These are our volunteers, just a few of our volunteers this year. On the left there, you see the Community Service, Inc., AmeriCorp. They came in to our soccer complex and planted over 30 trees this summer. which was greatly needed out there for shade. I think I noticed maybe one of those out of the 30 have died, maybe, if I looked at them all right, but that's pretty good for planting 30 trees. We've had 2 different Eagle Scout projects this year. One of them was the Gaga Pit. If you don't know what a Gaga Pit is, just go home, ask your kids what it is, ask your grandkids what it is, because they'll know exactly what it is. It's a ball that it's kind of like dodgeball, but it's played below your knees in that wooden pit there in the middle. And then you can see there, that's James Park again with all the energy trucks out there and Optimum and the police department's there, the street department's there. Everybody's there volunteering, helping to get the Lattimore House down the street. And that bottom picture is the OORC, which is the off-road, which is probably a lot of these cyclists right here. That is the park up at Confederate Mothers, the Pine Knob Bike Park. It's coming in, and they've had multiple outings out there with lots of volunteers. I think there was probably 20 or so there that day, and I know they've had several other outings since that day. Those trails are going in fairly quickly. I mean, I think quicker than we had anticipated, really. And the parking lot's they've enlarged the parking lot already out there. But my list, it just goes on and on with our volunteers. The Parks Department, I mean, couldn't do all that they do without the volunteers. I mean, we've got soccer, we've got RYBA, we've got Boys and Girls Club. All those people come in and actually help the Parks Department in some way. I'm going fast here, so if I'm talking too fast, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get in under my 7 minutes. So the Aquatic Center was very, very busy this year because of the Hickey Pool being closed. The Boys and Girls Club was there all summer. Some of the daycares were there all summer, plus all the classes that we did. The kids' triathlon was there. We had movie nights, different parties, and numerous aerobics classes and fitness classes in the therapy pool. Also this year, my staff went out and they put together a program that was called Learn to Swim. They raised over $7,600, and that created 127 free swim lessons to the kids in our communities. We give 220 lessons total. 127 of those were free. That was from all our sponsors. You can kind of see them on the left of your screen there. There's 17, 18 different sponsors there that gave money to make that program possible. And I just wanted to kind of thank my staff, thank those sponsors for going out on a limb, doing that, raising all those monies, and we hope to do that again in the next coming year and raise even more money. Because it was a big success, and all that money was donated. That $7,600. Sequoia Park, we put that in the beginning of the year. We tore out a 28-year-old playground to put that one in. This one has a lot of all-inclusive stuff in it. Wheelchairs can actually roll up into the deck of the unit itself. And this unit we also added in the swings and the ADA swings and the merry-go-round in that unit, and that's over right beside Sequoia School if you haven't seen it. We've still got a few benches to add to it. We're waiting on those, and that project will be completely finished. And then we've got the long-awaited Hickey Pool project. If you haven't been out there, come meet with me one day. I'll carry you out there and show you what they're doing, because it looks like these pictures look worse now than it does right now. They've actually cleaned up most of it, and are getting ready to repair a lot of it now. But that project is most definitely in the works and going through. These are some before and after pictures at City Park. We've really been working on City Park the last couple of months. The picture on the left is what the playground fall zone used to be, and then the turf is on the right there of what it is now. And we did the 2 units at City Park that way, and we did the unit at the soccer complex with a new turf. And I have gotten so many compliments on that turf. They like it so much more than those rubber tiles. And I've even had different people here in the community just call wanting to know where they could get that to put in their playgrounds at home. So they really like that. And in the bathroom, you can see how dirty it was on the first picture, and now how clean it is and how much brighter it is in the bathrooms. We painted the bathrooms inside and out. We put all new fixtures in there, all new partitions, and added everything we could to that park. And right now, they are working on the splash pad over there. If you haven't been there by there here in the last week or two, They started doing some footings for the splash pad today, doing some concrete work. And basically, here in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks, we'll see the splash pad, and we will see the new all-inclusive playground over there. And both those units are roughly 5,000 square feet apiece, some a little bit bigger. But that will be hopefully the future of our city park. And we will just keep growing off of what we're building over there right now to make it better. And that's what I'm going to end with, just showing you that. Like I said, the splash pad will be done before the end of the year, inclusive playground right after the first of the year. And if you want to go by and see any of these, just come by and see me. I'll take you out and show them to you. Or if you have any questions about them, just shoot me an email or a text, and I'll answer anything I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's moving on to the Personnel Committee. Mr. Harrell.
Nothing new in the Personnel Committee, but it will be the second reading tonight of the change in the personnel policy about procedure to review disciplinary actions.
Mayor, may I make a motion for informal discussion on this prior to the reading, please?
I have a motion for discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
My question mainly is, what's wrong with the way it is? Why are we looking at changing it? It's been currently written and working in the personnel book. This change potentially removes an employee's right and ability to appeal a decision. And why wouldn't you want an employee to have that ability to appeal?
There's not been any restriction on taking away the right to appeal. It just put it on the department level instead of going straight to the mayor. And if you see there on the exhibit there, it outlines the procedure. First, it goes to his immediate supervisor, and if it doesn't meet satisfaction, he goes to the department head.
Yes, which is really not much different than it is now, but you're removing that appeal process to from the employee to take it to the person that ultimately has the end decision.
The reasoning behind this recommendation from the Personnel Committee is taking a look at the very real possibility that we could have a mayor who is elected and takes office next year, who is related to someone who currently works with the city, works at the city. And this was taking away the appealing of, like, let's say if this person was fired, then they would then appeal to a relative to make that decision. So it was trying to be forward-looking. It was done with the guidance of the municipal league and their recommendation as to this is how to handle it.
It is my understanding that the municipal league has recommended that this provision not be there. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, there was direct conversation with them. This was their recommendation. That's not normal protocol statewide.
So we're looking at making an exclusion for something that may or may not happen, and if you have a layer, Mr. Harold, what you said, assuming there's 2, 3, 4 layers there, but in a department setting where you have a department head and then one employee under them, or just one layer of employee under them, then their decision is final and there's no appeal process because it's a single layer of appeal, of level. Correct?
That's correct.
So we're going to leave all that burden and authority onto a department head instead of an elected official that has been elected to perform all the duties of the city.
That's correct.
Okay, just making sure.
I would assume that, just in my experience working in various organizations, I would assume that when something has reached the level where termination is something that's recommended, typically that's something that is discussed up and down the chain before that action is taken anyway. So I know that like it's been my experience where if I've ever had to terminate someone that I supervised, they could appeal it to my superior, but I made sure that I kept my superior in the loop so they knew why I was taking that action anyway. So I would assume that with the city, that's the same thing that would occur here.
So from what you said a while ago, Mr. Keller, so this would be an event to try to keep a possible issue of nepotism from being in play?
That is the goal of this recommendation, yes, is to, in the event that we have a situation where under current rules, the final decision maker could potentially be related to that person that is, that the action is being taken upon. This is an attempt to try to remove that.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was also the catalyst for it, but this is SOP for the municipal league, so we would just be in line with other cities. That was just the thing that kind of brought it to our attention that, oh, we may need to look at changing our policy.
Yeah, that recommendation was actually something that was made by the municipal league, I think 2, 3, 4 years ago too. We just never as a city adopted that recommendation of best practices on it anyway. So this kind of brings us in line with best practices of other cities around the state.
Okay, all right. So do I have a motion for second of 3 readings?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the second of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance amending a section of the City of Russellville Personnel Policy Manual and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend the Personnel Policy Manual by removing the section that allows for an appeal from the department head level for an employee to the mayor for a review of disciplinary action.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Moving on to the Finance Committee. Ms. Westcott.
Thank you, Mayor. From our meeting this evening, there were 2 items. Number 1 is an appropriation request from the General Fund 2021 carryover balance, the sum of $9,000 to be used for the increased engineering fees for the Airport 6 Bay hangar and apron project. And we present item number 1 as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2 is an appropriation request from the new Economic Development Fund, the sum of $54,955 to be used to fund the Whitewater Park feasibility study. And we present item number 2 as a motion to adopt.
Thank you for that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
From our meeting last week, item number 1 is consideration of a resolution that would levy millage taxes on all property in the city of Russellville, Arkansas for the year 2022, repeal resolution number 1858 and for other purposes. And we present item number 1 as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? I would just like to add and clarify to the citizens of Russellville that this is not an increase in your millage. This is simply a continuance of the existing millage to pay off the debt that's owed to the firefighters' retirement fund. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2 is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign a lease and service agreement and all other necessary documents with Safe Haven Baby Boxes for the use of their safety device at a city fire station. And we present item number 2 as a motion to adopt.
Motion, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign a ground lease agreement with Arkansas Tech University and the Division of Building Authority for the lease of land where fire station number 3 is located. And we present item number 3 as a motion to adopt.
Thank you for that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 4 and 4A. Number 4 is an appropriation request from the 2021 Street Fund Sales Tax Improvements, the sum of $1,351,152 to be used to construct the Brookside drainage improvements at 4th and 5th Street. And number 4A is consideration of a resolution that would accept that bid for that project. And we present items number 4 and 4A as a motion to adopt.
Have a motion, any discussion?
In speaking with Mr. Duval this afternoon, and speaking with some residents along this way, I just want to be sure after our Inglewood and 12th Street project that any agreements or verbal agreements per se, any notes, et cetera, that we take addressing residents' concerns, be sure that we're going to keep those on file for a period of time following the project. You know, we had an issue about a fence and everything along 12th Street from the Inglewood project that's lingered for a few years now. And I made Mr. Duval aware of another concern of a resident on 4th Street today. And so I just want to be sure that that is going to be kept of record.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 5 and 5A. Number 5 is an appropriation request from the new Economic Development Fund, the sum of $245,000 to be used to purchase the sewer line from the Russellville city limits to the Pope County Fairgrounds from the city of Dover. Number 5A is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign an agreement with the city of Dover to take possession of that portion of the sewer line. And we present items number 5 and 5A as a motion to adopt.
Thank you for that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 6 is an appropriation request from the Fire Contingency Fund Reserve, the sum of $43,500 to be used for the civil engineering for the live fire training facilities ground. And we present item number 6 as a motion to adopt.
Motion, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 7 and 7A. Number 7 is an appropriation request from the ACEDP grant awarded on behalf of Phoenix Innovations in the amount of $240,000. And number 7A is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the finance director to open a new checking account and restricted fund with Centennial Bank to direct the community development block grant funds received from that. And we present items number 7 and 7A as a motion to adopt.
Motion, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 8 is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to execute an offer and acceptance for selling 294.17 acres of real property by State Highway 247. This was forwarded from the Finance Committee with a recommendation of approval, but I move that we return this item back to the Finance Committee to allow for more discussion among the council and between the council and the petitioner.
Second.
He can, because the motion from finance was to put it out there, so the referral is a subsidiary motion to the motion of the finance committee, which was referring it to the committee. So if the referral is voted down, then the motion, the original motion is referred. So we have a vote on the referral?
Okay, what I'm hearing from the city attorney is you're wanting to pull this back to the finance committee, and that requires a motion to refer. Does he need a second for that?
Yes.
Mr.
I'll need a
Keller.
second on that because
Mr. Keller
the original
seconded.
motion is, it's out to the committee for, it's out to the commission, to
Okay.
the council for approval of the offer and acceptance.
So do I have a second on that from Mr. Keller? Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 9 is an appropriation request from the General Fund 2021 carryover balance, the sum of $13,223.09 to be used to purchase inflatable obstacle course for the Aquatic Center. And we present item number 9 as a motion to adopt.
A motion, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 10 is an appropriation request from the City General Fund Reserve, the sum of $11,082.22 to be used as a pass-through for an insurance claim. And we present item number 10 as a motion to adopt.
Motion, second. I'm sorry, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 11 is an appropriation request from the Lattimore Tourist Home Special Fund, the amount of $52,500 to be used to reimburse the expenses paid for the Friends of the Lattimore Tourist Home, and we present item number 11 as a motion to adopt.
Motion, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 12, 13, and 14. Item number 12 is consideration for reimbursement request to the Main Street Russellville in the amount of $15,000 for the third quarter expenses in accordance with their contract. Number 13 is consideration of a reimbursement request from the Arkansas Valley Alliance for Economic Development in the amount of $20,084.64 for their third quarter expenses in accordance with their contract. Number 14 is consideration of reimbursement for the Alliance for Workforce Development in the amount of $18,937.96 for their third quarter expenses in accordance with their contract. And we present items number 12, 13, and 14 as a motion to adopt.
Have a motion on items 12, 13, and 14. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 15 is consideration of a resolution that would accept a bid for third-party contractual billing services for the Russellville Fire Department ambulance service in the city of Russellville. And we present item number 15 as a motion to adopt.
Motion, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, that being the last of our agenda, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to old business, item number 1. Let me catch up in my book here just to make sure that I'm in the right place. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Unfinished old business, item number 1, consideration of an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of the 10-foot utility drainage easement on the rear of north side of lots 23, 24, and 25, and along the northeast property line of lot 26. This is the third and final reading. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read by title only with a short explanation.
Have a motion, have a second? Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of 10-foot utility drainage easement on the rear or north side of lots 23, 24, 25, and along the northeast property line of lot 26, less than except the red and white hatched area in lot 26 is depicted in Exhibit B of the Center, Phase 3, City of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would vacate that 10-foot utility drainage easement as aforementioned and is shown on the exhibits in Exhibits A and B, except for what is hatched in red and white on Exhibit B. It will be retained.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion to adopt and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, consideration of ordinance repealing ordinance 1918, the banning of specific breeds of dogs within the city limits. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, after speaking with a couple members of the public who still have some concerns about some things, I move to table item number 2. And I would also, at this time, like to say that I'd like to get a working session regarding this on the books at some point in time in the next couple of weeks for the council and concerned members of the public to be able to come in and talk about this proposed ordinance specifically, and then vicious animals in the city more broadly.
Second the motion.
Nice.
Make sure I understand the motion. The motion is to table item number 2 with a meeting to be scheduled in the next couple of weeks for additional discussion.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have a second. Any other discussion on that motion?
I feel like that we've let this thing run its course to 3 readings. I would like to just see us move forward with seeing where we're gonna go with this as a council.
What did he say? I didn't hear.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to hear what Mr. Keller's got in mind. So I'm good with, I think it's a good idea to see what he's got prepared going forward, instead of, if he's got something else to talk about and wants us to look at something, maybe something new or some sort of compromise, then I think that's what we ought to do.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One no. Motion carries. Item number 3, consideration of
Mayor,
ordinance.
I'm sorry, real quick, were there any citizens signed up to speak on item 2? I know it's been tabled, but were there anyone signed up to speak?
I'm sorry, Mr. Keller, I couldn't understand.
Were there any, was anyone signed up to speak on item 2?
There wasn't item number 2, no, sir.
No, okay, good, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, consideration of ordinance approving the private club permit for River Valley Hospitality number 1 and allowing for the application of the required permits from the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division. This is for Arkansas Tech University. This is the second of 3 readings. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the second and final time by
Second.
title only with a short explanation.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Armstrong, you did sign up to speak on this, but since there was a motion to read for the second of 3 reading at this point, well, is there a motion to approve?
I need to read it first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith.
In order to approve the private club permit for River Valley Hospitality number 1, incorporated in light for the application required permits from the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division per Arkansas Code annotated section 3-9-222 as amended for the purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would allow River Valley Hospitality number 1 Incorporated to apply with the state ABCD for their permit for the place in Williamson Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Motion to adopt.
A motion to adopt and a second. Now, discussion. Mr. Armstrong, you had signed up to speak. Do you have anything you'd like to address to the council at this time?
Well, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I actually just signed up to reserve the right to speak if anybody had any questions. I know that we have endeavored to answer them as they've come up, and so I just wanted to make sure that I reserved a little bit of time in case somebody had a question. If not, I'll be glad to sit back down.
Thank you.
Mr. Armstrong, I do have a question. Should it pass this evening, is there a need for an emergency clause to be enacted on this?
I think an emergency clause would actually be very helpful, considering how long the process takes. And we currently have students who are having to travel to off-site locations, which is an unnecessary risk that we could circumvent by having an emergency clause.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. One no. Motion carries.
Mayor, for the reasons just articulated, I move that we enact the emergency clause.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to enact the emergency clause. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Is that just one no? Just want to make sure. It's the only one I heard. Okay. Motion carries. All right. Item number 4, consideration of ordinance amending ordinance number 2023, updating procedures for the Russellville Downtown Historic District Commission and for other purposes. This is the second of 3 readings. The desire of the council.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the second of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2023, updating the procedures for the Russell Historic District Commission and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would update the procedures for the Russell Historic District Commission throughout the procedures of getting a certificate of appropriateness for buildings that are modified, restored, or preserved on the exterior of that building within the district.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Moving on to new business. At this time, I would like to, a public hearing is required on items 1, items 2, and items 3, and I'd like to go ahead and combine those public hearings. And so if you have something to speak in relation to item 1, 2, or 3 on the agenda tonight, please step forward. And at this time, we'll open the public hearing. I do have Mr. Rogers that requested to speak on item 1A.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I just wanted to briefly say that we are requesting the emergency clause be enacted. I've been looking for a couple years for a piece of property to be able to do something in the College Hill zone, some residential property in the College Hill zone that reflects not only zoning code but also the design that I think the city would like in that area going forward. We finally found a piece of property that we thought would be a good place to do that, but then due to a death in the family of the previous owners, it took us several months to be able to get that real estate transaction done, which has put us, in a time constraint. And so the emergency clause would help me be able to get that project started. I need to be able to have that project started in October, November, or wait a year probably to be able to do that. And so just appreciate the consideration of the council in that.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Anyone else here to speak on items 1, 2, or 3? And just to clarify, item 1 is consideration of ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of West 8th Street adjacent to Lot 6, Block 9, College Hill Edition of Center Phase 3. Item 2 is consideration of ordinance vacating and abandoning a 60-foot unopened right-of-way South Houston Place between Blocks 11 and 16 of the A.E. Luker Edition. And items 3A is consideration of an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of West 2nd Street right-of-way adjacent to and south of lots 10 through 12, blocks 9, and lots 5 through 9, block 10 of the McClure and Bayless edition. Okay, hearing no other comment, I close the public hearing and I move to item 1A. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with a reading requirement, read one time only by title with a short explanation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of West H Street adjacent to Lot 6, Block 9, College Hill Edition of the Center, Phase 3, City of Russellville, and for other purposes. Excuse me, that shouldn't be in there. Should be a College Hill Edition This ordinance, if passed, would vacate a 6-foot north 6 feet of West 8th Street in the Block 6, Lot 6 of Block 9, the College Hill Addition, as further shown with the attachment labeled as Exhibits A and B.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion to adopt in a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, in order to better promote the development within the city of Russellville, I move that we enact the emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and second for the emergency clause. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2A, consideration of ordinance vacating and abandoning a 60-foot unopened right-of-way, South Houston Place, between Block 11 and Block 16. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the first of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a 60-foot unopened right-of-way, South Houston Place, between Block 11 and 16 of the A.E. Luker Addition, City of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would vacate the aforementioned 60-foot unopened right-of-way, which would be, if the road was there, South Houston Place, between Blocks 11 and 16 of the A.E. Luker Addition, as further shown by the attachments and exhibits attached with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Item 3A, consideration of an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of West 2nd Street right-of-way adjacent to and south of lots 10 through 12, Block 9, and lots 5 through 9, Block 10 of the McClure and Bayless Addition, as depicted in Exhibit A of your package. What is the desire of the council?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the first of 3 readings, rather, by title only with a short explanation.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of West 2nd Street right-of-way adjacent to and south of lots 10 through 12, Block 9, and lots 5 through 9, Block 10 of the McClure and Bayless Addition, as depicted in Exhibit A, City of Russellville, Arkansas, for the purposes. This ordinance passed would vacate and abandon the right-of-way as aforementioned, as further shown in Exhibit A.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, what I'd like to do is combine items 4 and 5 since they're so closely related. Item 4 is consideration of ordinance adopting a revised city zoning code by reference for the city of Russellville. Item 5 is consideration of ordinance adopting a revised land subdivision and development code by reference for the city of Russellville.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for informal discussion since we're unable to have discussion in a state of reading.
I have a motion for discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I realize that this is an important thing for the city, and I was in full support of it initially to overhaul our zoning code and our building codes and all of that to streamline it, to make it more user-friendly, customer-friendly, resident-friendly, all the way around, whether it's somebody building a storage building in the backyard or someone building a subdivision or a industrial development or commercial development. But I'm afraid at this point in time, we've had 3, maybe 4 of these work sessions, and each work session has centered on one topic only because of the in-depth conversation of each meeting duly for each subject. And there's several other sections that I believe are equally important for discussion and to go through. And I've said for a couple months now that why don't we divide this up into sections and pass it section review in detail and pass section by section. But if that's not what we want to do, that's fine. But there's still, we hadn't really even talked about the commercial development changes that would require a 10-foot street buffer. That's it's already nixed 2 projects because it would not allow the adequate parking and so forth on the sites for the projects. You know, I'll just use that as one example that we've looked at to say, you know, are we sure having a 10-foot buffer zone around the whole project or the whole property is the right way, instead of having a percentage requirement for that, for the green space. And, you know, we do that for building size compared to lot size limitations. So why would we not potentially look at doing the same aspect or the same mindset towards green space? And that way the percentages can be configured to fit each individual project and/or lot instead of prohibiting projects and lots. And so I'd hope that we could take that, because if we read it tonight and there's very many changes made, I think Mr. Smith can correct me here, but next month it's not going to be the second reading, it's going to be the first reading. So this tonight is kind of a moot point. You know, why proceed if we think there's still going to be changes made?
I do have some individuals have signed up to speak on item number 4. Mr. Gooden? Mr. Gooden, if would you like to speak on item number 4? If you would approach the podium and state your name, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me an opportunity to express a couple of views.
Good, just to make sure that we're following protocol.
Okay.
You have 3
I'm
minutes.
Cliff Gooden.
Okay.
I'm a local citizen. You know, I really don't have a dog in this hunt. You know, my career is over as far as real estate is concerned. So these development things don't affect me at all. And I don't know whether they're right or wrong. I've talked to some people that's very knowledgeable about this, and some of them thinks that a part of the code, they've done a good job in making some changes in it. Some of them thinks there needs to be more work done. My only concern is that we as a city has a reputation of being hard to work with. And if you take and add 150 pages to any document, the general public and the people that you're working with do not think that you're laying another layer of bureaucracy that they have to deal with. I'll give you one example. I called a fella, I'm not going to share his name, and asked him to come to this meeting tonight. He's been very active in this market, both in the residential market and the commercial market over his career. He's had a very good career. He said, I'm not going down there and waste my time. He said, I'm through. I'm through of working inside the city limits of Russellville. And unfortunately, we have developed that reputation. I don't know, I don't think this is going to help that reputation. I just think it's going to be another layer of bureaucracy that we have to deal with. Thanks for letting me express those views. Good.
Mr. Sutherland.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've attended some of these meetings that Mr. Tripp has been talking about. I'm not a developer. I'm not really anybody, but I do live here. So these things affect us personally. I don't want to make things more difficult for any developer, anybody to create something in Russellville. However, those buffers could be very important if those commercial zones butt up to a residential zone. I brought a couple pictures that I printed out, if that's okay to share.
You're welcome to pass them
Okay.
to council.
I'll show them here and then I'll pass. Is that fine? Sure.
You have 3 minutes, by the way.
Yes, no problem. So this is, I don't know if they can zoom in or see it. This is my front yard, and that is what used to be my front yard. My whole neighborhood abuts next to a commercial zone, and they have absolutely decimated the trees and everything next to it. This is my front yard now. I get to see the high school, Arkansas 7, trucks all day. The noise is much louder, and it's just not exactly the same place that I purchased the house for. Now, again, there's a fence there. The property line is right on it. I believe, like what Mr. Tripp said, maybe it's not a hard 10-foot rule, but and maybe it's not from the street, but something at the property line of a residential and commercial should be in consideration. One of the major reasons I like this town and this city is because of the greenery. You know, the River Valley is very beautiful, and I don't want to just see a bunch of buildings and stuff go up against, you know, residential neighborhoods, and then, oh, we've got our buildings to look at. So it's a big reason why I even live there is all the greenery. And I have more pictures, and I can email them to the council if that's acceptable. So, but that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crooms. Mr. Crooms, did you want to address the council?
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Bucky Crome, resident of Russellville, developer. I just wanted to come tonight, and I appreciate you giving us a chance to speak on this issue. This new zoning code that you're considering is a massive undertaking. It's something that really, I think, is certainly something that should be looked at. It needs some very serious consideration. There was some public comment back earlier on in the year, but we didn't have the code, the proposed code, in front of us at that time. That's recently been finished. There's a lot of changes. There are some good things in there, and there are some things that need to be addressed. I think you're going to hear from a person or two here in just a second that see how their potential properties are going to be negatively impacted by this proposed new code. I would like to see this council to really look at this and look at these various sections, look at the sections one at a time. Let's go through them, something that's not been able to be done between the city and its citizens, to try to make this a good code and not just pass this thing. We've had this code in place for a long, long time. I'd like to see us look at this code, the proposed code, and review it section by section, and let's make an informed decision on this. We may not all agree on all these things, but we can at least have a discussion, and up to this point, we've not really been able to do that with the actual black and white code that's in front of us. So I would appreciate your consideration to look at this process on a very much more item-by-item view, and try to move this along as quickly as possible, but in a very prudent manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crew. And finally, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Osborne?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, for letting me speak. I'm Boyd Osborne, resident of Pope County since 1977. I own lots 1, 9, and 10 of Block 27, Mary A. Russell Edition, between Flowers, etc., and Amcare. It's on West B Street. Two of those lots, lots 9 and 10, are 40 feet wide by 80 feet deep. The other lot is 40 feet wide by 120 feet deep, creating lots off of West B Street, a total of 80 feet wide and 120 feet deep. My intention was to build a duplicate similar to the Summers CPA firm on West B Street, 1 block east of Flowers, etc. I visited with Dave Garza about working out a plan of what size building I could put on those lots. And if this ordinance goes into effect, since these lots back up to duplexes on lots on West C Street that I did own at one time and sold to Emmett Barnes, I would have to put a barrier at the back and at the front. There leaves no room, with the parking required, no room for a building. So there I'm stuck with a 80-foot wide lot that's 120 feet deep that does not work with this ordinance. And I think it's a mistake to lump all of this into one basket and say this is what we're going to do regardless, no matter where the lots are located or what the intent of the property is. So I would just ask you to seriously consider what you're going to do with this ordinance before you make a final decision. And I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor. I'm a simple guy, and I like numbers, and so I like to boil things down to numbers whenever I can, because numbers paint a real good picture, and they're concrete. You know, I agree that we don't need to be adding a bunch of brand new things. I agree that we don't need to be adding layers of bureaucracy, as it was put. And so I wanted to look at the numbers of what has changed from what is currently in the code versus what is being proposed. And so we've gone from 159 pages to 245 pages. That's 86 extra pages, and that just sounds like, on its face, like a lot. And so just looking at the numbers there, I was real hesitant about it. But then I looked into what those 86 pages actually represent. And so if you look at the change, just the change in font size to go from Times New Roman to something else, I can't remember what it is, to make it easier to read for people with visual impairments. You just added 15 pages to that. You know, as someone who, my wife is dyslexic, and so she utilizes those fonts that make it easier to read when she's reading documents whenever she can. So I very much appreciate that 15 extra pages so that my wife would be able to read it if she needed to. So really, once you take those away, you're only looking at 71 pages. Well, then if you look at really more, well, what do those 71 pages mean? You're looking at 13 extra pages that encompass what the United States Supreme Court said our signing ordinance needs to be. So, I mean, this isn't something that we're saying, let's change the sign ordinance. This is something that has been passed down to us by the United States Supreme Court. So that's 13 pages there. It incorporates 7 pages for the street naming ordinance that we passed as a council earlier this year. It incorporates 2 pages for the vacation of right-of-way ordinance that's already on the books. 7 pages for airport zoning, which is already on the books. You know, so really, I mean, you've got 29 pages of that 71 that are already on the books or that have been given to us by the United States Supreme Court that we can't do anything about. So really, you're only looking at like 42 pages. But of that 42 pages, you've got clarifications of things where in the current code, it's very gray. And in my talking with developers, with builders, with people who do this for a living, they tell me that what they like is rules that are concrete, saying this is what the rule is. It's black and white. It's not gray. You don't like operating in gray. The gray is where things get fuzzy, and that's where you don't really know what it is that you're having to do. So if you have those rules there that are concrete and let you know the parameters that you're operating in for your development, for your building, whatever it is that you're doing, that makes it, ultimately, it makes it cheaper, it makes it easier, it streamlines that process. So, I mean, take away those 22 pages. So, I mean, you're really only left with 20 new pages. Well, one of those pages is just listing the fees so that it's easy to see where those fees are. So you're only looking at 19. You look at it 4 pages there where you take items such as, was it a garage and automotive dealerships and a couple other things where it goes from a special use permit to actually just permitted, so it streamlines that process, makes it easier. There's less bureaucracy in those by adding those 4 pages. So really you go from 19 to 15. So we got 15 new pages. Well, then you've got 7 pages that just deal with food trucks. We don't have anything on the books that deal with food trucks. But we have 7 pages that deal with food trucks that, in working with the people who own and operate food trucks, they're completely and totally fine with. So when you take away those 7 pages, you're left with 8 new pages. Well, of those 8 new pages, you have 4 pages that our citizens asked us for, walkability in their neighborhoods, making it to where it's more friendly for when you live in a neighborhood to get out and walk with your family. As someone who loves getting out and walking with my children and with my wife, and the citizens asked for this, so you could take away that. So you're really looking at 4 brand new pages. 4. Everyone wants to tell you that it's 245. 245 brand new. But that's not the case. When you look at the numbers, it's 4. And I'm perfectly willing to have more conversations about this. But I think to say that we're heaping brand new information that's just out of the blue, and it's hundreds of brand new regulations and bureaucracy, is not really understanding what it is that we're looking at up here. We're looking at 4 pages. And in this that we're considering, we're looking at streamlining the process. Everything that we are legally allowed to streamline, we've done. If staff can make the decision, great. We're letting staff make that decision so it's easier. You don't have to go to the Planning Commission if you don't have to. But where we're mandated by law that this issue go to the Planning Commission, it's in there. That's state law saying that we have to do it that way. You know, it clarifies those gray areas, the squishy areas, the things that make it difficult to develop, because it gives concrete black and white, these are the rules. And it's simplified by making it, the whole process, easier. Now, I understand there are instances, Mr. Osborne, like where it might not work for that specific piece of property that you got. I completely and totally understand. The good news is that there's a place, or there's a process where we can deal with those. We can make it to where you can use that property, and we have a process to do that. I don't want you to just own a piece of property that you can't do anything with. I don't want developers to not want to come to Russellville. But I think where developers don't want to come because they say Russellville's hard to work with, when you make it black and white and you simplify the process, you make it easier for people to come to Russellville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. I appreciate that.
I got a couple of things. So I think this is rhetorical, but if, Sarah, if you want to add to this, really small lots equal really good candidates for a variance, right? And a variance that would be recommended by the city would be approved in a lot of cases, because they are, when you're less than an acre, it opens up a lot of, is that correct? Okay. The second thing I would say is this document's been out since March. Yes, there's been changes, but we've had lots of opportunities. I know I've been on Zooms, I've gotten multiple opportunities, and I know that's been sent out to the development community as well. So this thing's not new. It's been a changing document, but the idea that we haven't had a chance to discuss these things is just not the case, because they've been out there. It's just, I think we're now at the finish line, and now folks are wanting to take a closer look. But this thing's been out there for a long time.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other motions on this item?
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules, dispense the reading of the requirement, and read the first reading by title only with a short explanation.
Is that for items 4 and 5?
Yes.
First-
Do
Is
you
it
have a
first
motion?
of-
Do I have a second?
First of
First reading,
three?
yes.
First of how many readings?
3.
Second.
I have a first and I have a motion with a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have one no. Motion carries.
I'd like to also say that if there is some concerns and stuff that we need to discuss, I'm willing to hear that, listen to that, and adjust to it. But I think if we get the bulk of this and we get to start moving forward, I think that's the way we started this year. We wanted to get it done, and we're at the end of the line, so let's get it done.
Mr. Smith?
An ordinance adopting a revised city zoning code by reference for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would adopt a revised city zoning code that would replace the current zoning code that was adopted and currently in effect by ordinance number 1966 and its subsequent ordinance amendments to 1966. The second ordinance is an ordinance adopting a revised land subdivision development code by reference to the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would adopt a revised land subdivision development code for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and would replace the current land subdivision development code that is currently in effect by ordinance number 1701 and other subsequent amendments, and replace it with this new one.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, item number 6, the final item for this evening, is a discussion regarding inadequate infrastructure on existing areas of town. Mr. Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've had this ongoing issue for several years, but it's recently kind of hit home to me and made a lot of sense, and we have a couple examples here to use. But we have at least one, but I think there's several underdeveloped infrastructure areas within our community. And our standard procedure for years has been just to put that burden on the business owner, et cetera, trying to fill a gap in an area or to expand or to build or start from scratch. And I'm not sure that just because that's the way we've always done it is the correct way. And I bring it up just to draw some attention to it and hope that we as a city, you as mayor, can look at this. You and I have discussed one of them specifically. You've got an area that a local poster child example of a small business expanding, going into a semi-residential, semi-commercial area, but it borderlines a very commercial area. And there's a 2-inch water line, but they're having to put in a $20,000 expense or $16,000 expense once you take the fire hydrant off of it. That's going to improve the whole area, that the city is going to improve. The city is going to benefit. The fire department, the fire protection is going to benefit because they're having to put in a 6 or 8 inch line to add a fire hydrant. Therefore, the city would no longer having to run hoses across 5 lanes of Main Street if a fire was to occur in that area. And we put this burden on one business to upgrade the whole area. And another example is one coming, a project that's looking on the north side of the railroad tracks in the downtown area that, again, it's fire protection. And I don't know what the right answer is. I'm just hoping to bring some attention to it, because at what point do we look at, say, how much of this is on us? Because if they're going to create 3 jobs, 5 jobs, 10 jobs, or 20 jobs, we just kind of turn our nose and look the other way. But if they're going to create 50 jobs, then we may spend a couple $100,000 for that project. And so what's the difference in economies of scale? Is it a localized grant program to offset some infrastructure? I don't know, but we do it for the bigger players. We don't do it for the smaller players. And I'm not saying just because you create 2 jobs, you should get something. That's not what I'm saying. But I think both of these examples are brand-new jobs, several jobs. And, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, we ran water and sewer at $2 or $3 million expense out to Weir Road. For what reason? To hope somebody develops that area. Well, we've got those same areas within the pockets of town right now that are undeveloped, underserved. So how do we justify spending $2 and $3 million out here, and we've got a growing small business or a new business coming into town that if we expanded that infrastructure, it'd cost $20,000 or $25,000, but we spent $2 or $3 million out there. So I just think it's something that we as a city need to be sure that it's not time for a thorough review and maybe a change, just because it's how we've always done it.
Any other discussion? Yeah, let me just add, I think that it's really going to be up to the council of the city to decide, do we want to go out and find all the black holes, if you will, in the community that the city ought to be putting infrastructure in place to entice business is really a daunting task, because you really don't know where they are until they happen. And so that's a challenge. If the city decides that they want to use economic development funds for every business that comes in where a black hole, if you will, is identified, then that's certainly something that the council can consider, the city government can consider doing, but it would be a precedent that should be, considered, the impact going forward, because then every developer who comes in who says, hey, I'm going to build 10 new houses and I need sewer lines, and so you did it for this business over here, so you need to do it for me. You just need to think about the implications of that going forward, but it's certainly an item worthy of discussion.
I don't disagree with that at all, and I think you have to, if you're going to do something, you have to establish some criteria and some parameters to it. But if you're doing it, if you're running $3 million worth of water and sewer out, but you're not willing, when somebody's wanting to develop within, whether you call it infill development or whatever it is, if the infrastructure's not there, what are the basic city services that we think or expect to be provided with tax dollars? I think fire protection is one of them.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before you do, housekeeping item that you might consider. The Finance and Agenda Prep meeting next month is scheduled on Election Day, so sometime between now and then, we might consider modifying that date.
Right. Do you have a date in mind?
That's
Well, perhaps the Monday before that, the 7th instead of the 8th.
The same week, just on the
Sure.
Monday? All right. You'll make that in form of a motion?
I do make, if I'm allowed to do that as new business, or...
Well, as it gets to technically, we'd have to vote on a new business item to do that.
So I move to add a late agenda item then, if I need to, or can we just do it? Okay, well, that is my motion then.
I have a motion to move the next agenda prep and finance committee meeting to the Monday instead of the Tuesday. Do you have a second?
Well,
All in favor,
discussion.
say aye.
And the reason for that is especially in regard to the code item. That's the time for the general public to come and have the floor and have more than 3 minutes to talk about whatever is on the agenda, whatever you want to talk about. So for their sake, I want to do it Monday to make it easier for them to be there and attend.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.